Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Nintzel, host of AZ Illustrated Politics, our weekly commentary and analysis of local, state, and national affairs. On tonight's show, the courts say Republican lawmakers have no authority to challenge Governor Jan Brewer's Medicaid expansion. What happens next to the Affordable Care Act in Arizona? Plus, Attorney General Tom Horne gets his own day in court in a campaign finance case, and Republican state lawmakers take aim at local libraries. All that and much more is coming up next on AZ Illustrated Politics. But first, a look at today's top stories.
New data show the Phoenix real estate market is slowing down, but those numbers could indicate a regional trend. A report from the Arizona State University School of Business shows the sale and supply of residential properties in Phoenix is in decline for the first time in 2 years. Those decreases may also be happening in Tucson, the rest of the state, and Southern California. The report shows residential housing investment activity and new construction numbers are also dropping, but the demand for rental homes remains high. The Arizona Board of Regents has formed a 28-person search committee for the next president of Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. NAU's president, John Hager, announced last year he'll retire when his contract runs out at the end of the next academic year. Hager's been at the helm of NAU for 13 years at this point. And the National Weather Service says there's a slight chance temperatures in Tucson could hit 90 degrees tomorrow. Hitting the 90s in February is rare, but not unheard of. According to the Weather Service, the mercury has stretched into the 90s in February 4 times since 1904. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
Bringing bighorn sheep back to the Catalinas.
We have learned that we have 2 new lambs as of today, and they're about a month old each, and that's just to prove that they made it for a month now, and that's a really good sign.
Death and life. The Arizona Game and Fish Department standing by its plan and defending its mission. Later on Arizona Week.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next news hour. An update on the drought in California. Plus, Shields and Brooks. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
House Speaker John Boehner recently announced that the U.S. House of Representatives would not be taking up immigration reform before the midterm elections. Joining me to talk about whether this is the end for immigration reform, National Republican Committeeman Bruce Ashe, Pima County Democratic Party Latino Caucus Chairman Vince Rabago, and Inside Tucson Business Editor Mark Evans. Thank you guys all for being here on Statehood Day. Mark, John Boehner blamed President Obama for the collapse of the immigration reform because he said that Obama could not be trusted to enforce these laws. I spoke to Congressman Grijalva earlier this week. He said that was preposterous, that Obama is the deporter-in-chief. He's deported more people than any other administration. Where do you fall down on this whole blame?
Well, that was a different story than he told January 30th when he said it looks like this was something we were finally going to be able to get done, that the leadership was behind it, and then a week later, we can't do it because Obama won't enforce the law. I think that is the way that they can use to get out of this and blame it on Obama without looking cowardly and saying, look, we can't get it done, because the only way to get it done is probably going to have some Republicans vote with some Democrats to pass it. And if you're the Speaker of the House, you want to have bills passed that are voted on by Republicans. And generally Republicans only, the Hastert rule, for instance. And so that's not going to happen. And it's an election year, and there's a problem if you are even a very conservative Republican, and if you break ranks and you vote on something like this that has a lot of opposition to it, you face the risk of a primary to the right of you. And that's happened several times over the last few election cycles, where very conservative Republicans ended up getting tossed for even more conservative Republicans because they had done something like, reach across the aisle and pass some bipartisan legislation. So blaming Obama, I think, is the easy way out for them without getting too much egg on their face, is my take.
Bruce, before Speaker Boehner threw in the towel, he did release a set of principles, and they were very similar to what the Republican National Committee passed at your behest. I think the idea of allowing people to stay in the country who are undocumented and have some kind of legal status but not a path to citizenship. Your thoughts on how this is breaking down here?
I think that to pick up on where Mark left off, not even the Democrats trust the president to enforce not just immigration but other laws. Charles Schumer, senator from New York, said just last weekend on some of the Sunday talk shows that perhaps any immigration reform that was passed ought to go into effect after the president leaves office. I'm not sure who trusts who. I like where the Republican caucus appears to be moving. The RNC is very clearly on record with respect to seeking regularization. It's time that we change national policy. This is not about politics. It shouldn't be about winning elections. It ought to be what is right for America and for our future, and to build this economy back to where it needs to be.
Vince, were you surprised the House Republicans threw in the towel so early here?
No, not at all, actually. I thought it was a ploy by the House Republicans and Boehner to float this flag that Mark referred to just a few weeks ago, saying, look, these are the principles, giving some hope to people to look as if they were going to be reasonable and try to come to the table to help fix this issue that America has. But as we see very quickly, it was all a charade, and I have to take issue with my colleague Bruce's comment that Democrats don't trust the president because of what Senator Schumer said. He was actually saying that tongue-in-cheek because the reality is it was a fait accompli that the Republicans would not say, okay, we'll pass it now and let it go into effect after President Obama's gone. And it called their bluff, laid it out clear for the American people that they were never serious about this, never serious about actually attacking this problem. At the end of the day, to get immigration reform passed through, which the business community supports, the business community is going to have to step up and elect more Democrats to Congress because they're serious about it. I applaud the Senate Republicans who joined with the Democrats to push forward the bill that went through. It wasn't perfect, but it was ready to be voted on. The last thing I heard about this was that there is potentially an effort to get what's called a petition for discharge, which would essentially release the bill for a vote, but you would need 18 courageous Republicans to sign on to do that. And I just don't think that, given what we've seen with John Boehner and how they've played this issue, despite the majority of the American people wanting reform, despite the business community wanting reform, despite the faith community wanting reform, I don't see that happening right now. But if the American people keep pushing it, and I'm optimistic, I keep pushing it, and this issue is not going to go away, and it will haunt the Republicans, particularly this split of Republicans, which is the hardline right-wing part of the party.
The fact that Vince ignores, unfortunately, is that even a natural ally of the Democrat Party and of the president doesn't like immigration reform, and that's the labor unions. And they've been very vocal on this point. I think there has to be a solution. Regularization, I think, is a big part of it. And we may see action also with respect to Dreamers as well, Vince. There may be a way forward on that point. I hope there will be. But what Vince describes is, I think, a little bit giving Republicans too much credit. They don't call us the dumb party for nothing. And that's a pretty craven sort of a plan that Vince just laid out, I think.
Well, let me ask you about the whole idea that Republicans need to do something to get right with the Latino community.
No, we need to do something right for the country.
Well,
that's more important. It's not about elections. It's about fixing the economy. It's about making this a great country again. And you do that by having an immigration policy that works. And right now, we have de facto sanctuary cities. We have de facto, all these immigration issues that have come as a result of laws that aren't followed, and states that go in one direction or another. Even in Arizona, they're talking about passing more immigration legislation. We need to get this straightened out as a national policy. Otherwise, states wouldn't be taking the kind of action they're taking. And with all due respect to you, Jim, and all due respect to Republicans who think otherwise, this is not about winning elections. It's about fixing the country, moving our economy forward,
John McCain, for example,
and doing what's right.
John McCain would say, one of the things you need to do is find a way to reach out to Latino voters because you are losing them, though. I mean, that's a political reality. Well, and do you think McCain's wrong on that point?
It may be a political reality, and I'm not saying that the senator's wrong on this point. But this is not about elections. It's not about winning Latino voters or any voters. It's about what's doing what we have to do as a country to fix this. Most other countries in the industrialized world have immigration policy, many far tougher than America. We're the most welcoming country anywhere in the world. Over 1 million legal immigrants come to this country and become citizens every year, eventually. This is a great country for immigrants. We're built on that tradition. And this shouldn't be just about bitching back and forth between Republicans and Democrats and thinking about who's conspiring with who. This is a national problem that has to be fixed, and it's not just an economic problem. This is something that we'll look back on as the 21st century goes on and say, how could we have not fixed this problem when we had a chance? And I think time is right.
What's your take, Mark?
Well, I think it is a political issue. I think that's why it's not getting done. It's because of elections. That's why it's not happening. In terms of whether the Republicans need to do something or they're going to lose Latino voters, well, first of all, if Latino voters want to have a greater effect on public policy in this country, they need to vote. They've got some of the lowest turnouts of any population within the country. Their population is growing, and hopefully, as that population grows, they will start voting, and then there may be some backlash. But I think there's this sense that the Latino voter is this monolithic block, and it's not. I mean, for Latino conservative Catholics, there's a lot to like, especially in social policies in the Republican Party. So there's room there for the Republicans to go out and grab those voters. I don't think that it is going to be solely a Democratic voting block. And so, it would be, I completely agree with what you said, but I don't think that issue is winning the day. It's the political realities of winning elections is what's causing the problem. And I'm not sure how we fix that.
Yeah, let me give Vince the last word before we move on this. But the Latino vote leaned pretty heavily towards Democrats in the last presidential election.
It did, and let me just say this. When efforts are made to increase turnout, for example, up in Phoenix, when there were a massive movement amongst the Latino community with Promise Arizona, and a number of Latino groups got a massive registration effort, got new voters out there, and then what happened? The legislature reacts by passing laws that restrict those activities that they were engaged in, which was helping people collect ballots, taking them in. All those things are seen as a direct retaliation effort against the Latinos in Arizona that were organizing to vote. The other aspect here, I agree with what both gentlemen have said. Yes, we need to get this done. I agree that it is politics that's holding this up, but it's politics on the Republican side of the aisle. And on the GOP side of the aisle, you've seen Arizona be the ground point for xenophobia. And although there are disagreements, there are many Latinos that are, yes, let's have a very strong, secure border. I'm in agreement with that. But what you've seen is an anti-Hispanic rhetoric that has resulted from this issue on the GOP side of the aisle. To a T. You had Joe the Plumber. He's talked about John McCain. Joe the Plumber in last year's cycle's election was up campaigning up in northern Arizona for Sylvia Allen, I believe, and said when people start coming across the border, those Mexicans, we should just shoot them. So when you have that kind of rhetoric and people don't distinguish, I'm brown all day long. People don't distinguish that, and when you have this kind of xenophobia and this sort of rabid efforts on the hard right of the Republican Party, that is what I'm talking about when I say there's going to be long-term blowback, because they're not just pushing the button on just these Hispanic immigrants, it's going across the board, and that is the long-term effort that is going to come back to
more
the Republican Party.
victimization, Vince. That's all we hear. This is a welcoming, wonderful community that we live in, where everybody has a place in the state, and really and truly,
nobody. Haven't been to Phoenix lately, Sheriff Joe's world. No, you're living in a different world, Bruce.
Nobody believes what you're saying.
Well, let me bring this back to the legislature. We had Carl Seal introduce legislation recently that would make it a crime for immigrants to use any kind of public facilities at all. And in fact, opponents of the bill delivered a toilet to his office this week, Mark.
Well, I don't think the toilet's really worth talking about, because that was just political theater that just made everybody look foolish, including the people that gave it to him. But in terms of the bill, since Russell Pierce got tossed out on his keister, Carl Seal has picked up the banner of, which I agree with Vince, is a bit of xenophobia, in which this attrition policy that they're trying to pass with these elections is make it very hard for immigrants to be in the country, legal immigrants to be here, and that they'll go away. The problem is that you can't tell if someone's in the country illegally by looking at them. you've got to have an interaction with them. And when you're having those interactions with legal citizens or people who aren't necessarily citizens but are here legally, and it's because they are Mexican Americans or they have brown skin, then you start getting what Vince is talking about is the blowback. And it's laws like this that does not help the Republican cause in trying to get immigration reform passed or to get Latinos on board with it.
I predict this vote is going nowhere. This bill is dead on arrival. It's not going anywhere. And that's exactly the reason that we need a national policy that's been updated and reformed and something that is designed to right the wrongs of the past, as well as build this economy and move forward as a country. And I'm confident we're going to do it.
And it seems like the chambers of commerce are not excited about these bits of legislation anymore either. They've written letters and said,
I don't think
tamp it down. They don't like it.
I don't think anybody's excited about this.
Well, part of that has to do with the resurgence of the Mexican economy. There's a lot of money to be made doing business with Mexico now, and that has got the business community saying, look, we have to stop irritating our neighbor to the north. We need to start doing business with them. You've got a city of Phoenix wants to open up a trade office down in Mexico. They asked the city of Tucson to be partners with them. Tucson quibbled. So now they've gone and asked the state, and you've got an ad hoc committee that was created by Andy Tobin, I believe, to explore that issue and to maybe have the state pay for that trade office. You've got a lot of efforts being made by legislative leaders, by Republicans, to reach out to Mexico, the governor, to start doing business or more business with Mexico. And these crazy bills that Carl Seal has put up hampers that effort. And I think you're going to see this bill, like Bruce said, get tamped down really quick.
Do you think it's going to go anywhere, Vince?
Well, I certainly hope not. And I think the other impact, speaking of the economy, the reason why leaders in Phoenix and across the state are looking at the economy is the devastating impacts it had on the Arizona economy. Those sorts of legislation like Senate Bill 1070. People in other in other states and certainly in our biggest neighbor to the south in Mexico spent a lot of money here, certainly in southern Arizona, and they just we saw an impact from that both as well as the tourism industry as well.
All right. Let me talk about another bill up in the legislature. That's one of the ones we haven't talked about on the show recently, and that's the issue about a new limits on library districts and other secondary taxing jurisdictions. Mark, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of how property taxes work and whatnot, but the folks I've talked to from the library say this bill would really damage what they're trying to do.
Right. So this bill was dropped by Representative Olson, who's a Mesa Republican, who's a former or current member of the Arizona Tax Research Association, which, if you want to know about the crazy Arizona property tax laws, call one of those guys. They know more about it than you would ever want to know. And it's an attempt to put a cap on these secondary property tax levies to pay for these special taxing districts, of which there are many, many dozen throughout the state. They pay for all kinds of things: fire districts, library districts, flood control districts. There's lots of them. And it's been portrayed as a library taxation bill that only seems to be affecting Pima County, but it also affects jail districts and some hospital districts in rural areas. So while the library patrons are all very nervous about it and upset, one, there's no sponsors to it, which is a pretty good sign that it might have trouble getting through the legislature. And two, there's good constituencies for libraries, jails, rural hospitals that I think will get pretty wound up about this bill, and I think it might have a really hard time. For instance, it already passed the Ways and Means Committee, but it's been it's been returned back to Ways and Means a couple days ago. And I don't know why, but obviously the speaker said, well, let's do this one over. So the fact that it's already in do-over mode, I don't think this bill is probably going to go very far.
Bruce, your thoughts?
I certainly am not in favor of this bill for the reasons that Mark pointed out. And there is a natural constituency. Lucky there's a lot of folks in Arizona who do read, who do use the libraries, and a lot of us who depend upon these other secondary taxing districts as a means to keep infrastructure improved. So I don't take this very seriously. It's a little embarrassing to come and to paraphrase Vince, you don't want to be living in a place where people don't have an opportunity to read books. We want this to be the kind of state where people have good access to libraries and where hospitals in rural areas and other secondary kind of taxing districts have a means with which to improve infrastructure. It's good for all of us.
Vince, your thoughts?
My thoughts, it's a bad idea. It's just a legislative Tabor type idea, which is they're just trying to restrict taxation. It's all in the name of ideology. So I think I agree with what they've said. It's bad for libraries. It's bad for all those other reasons. It's time to close the book on this one.
And Mark, the bill that would allow Green Valley and Sahuarita to secede from Pima County to Santa Cruz County apparently has been withdrawn by its sponsor.
Yeah, Gail Griffin has seen the light, apparently. In fact, Bruce actually has some good reporting on that. I only know about it because he told somebody who told me. But yeah, she was, the idea was to carve out a section of southern Pima County that takes in Sahuarita and Green Valley and draws a line all the way over and takes in Rosemont, and then merge that with Santa Cruz County. There was numerous problems with that. One, there's a lot of Democrats in Santa Cruz County. There's a lot of Republicans in Green Valley. The fact that those two would all get together and make nice and say, hey, why don't we all come together and create our own little spot of Arizona, I didn't think was going to happen. It also would require a change in state law that would allow just a section of the county that wants to secede to vote rather than the entire county. And I think that would have required a constitutional change, which this bill didn't provide for, so it had all kinds of problems.
Numerous hurdles. And Bruce, you didn't think it was a very good idea?
Well, besides the obvious goofball nature of this bill, the political issue is the Rosemont mine, whether they want to say it or not. It's the 800-pound gorilla that's in the middle of the room. And why would you, and I happen to favor the Rosemont mine and that whole operation, why would you take that part of the county and put it into Santa Cruz County when that's the part of the county who probably is in the greatest opposition of the mine being built under the current circumstances? It was a Budinsky bill. Senator Griffin said she wanted to have a town hall hearing to find out how everybody felt about it. Well, I think she got about 8,000 emails from people in Green Valley and Sahuarita who told her what they thought of it, and she avoided having the tomatoes thrown at her at the same time because she did it electronically.
All right.
So it's okay. It's moving on.
Okay. Vince, I want to talk about this Medicaid decision. The courts ruled this week that the Republican lawmakers who sued to say that the expansion of Medicaid was illegal because it didn't get a 2/3 vote from the legislature had no standing. They didn't have a right to bring that case. You're a lawyer. You think this decision is going to hold up under appeal?
I think it will. The reality is it was not the whole legislature bringing this attack on the Medicaid expansion. What you had was a small minority, a small group of disgruntled legislators who basically lost in the voting at the legislature. And so under our system, that would essentially create a topsy-turvy system whereby small groups would just sue every time they didn't get their way at the legislature. They're elected to vote. Once they vote, they should be done unless it's the whole legislature. So I don't see a problem with that in terms of the standing. And then on the legal issues, I think we've discussed this in the past. I think they're sound in terms of how they wrote the bill. There are many other types of fees that are implemented in that sort of fashion. The hospital industry that helped actually push for these fees. So I don't see any problem with it. I think it will withstand muster on appeal. The issue, though, what's going to happen is now that the Court of Appeals ruled the way we had previously discussed that they would, the Goldwater Institute, I think, is going to be very afraid because they may get a court ruling that hampers some of their litigation efforts in the future with respect to how some of these propositions can be attacked.
And Bruce, your thoughts on whether the court's going to hold up here?
Well, certainly Democrats and leftists here in this country who oftentimes take a minority position and who sue when they've lost different elections and different bills that have been passed in legislatures hasn't hurt the federal republic that we all live in. These disgruntled Republicans haven't done anything that's unconstitutional. It's their right to do it. We're still a long ways away in the process. I'm confident that there will be a different outcome upon appeal, and I don't think the Goldwater Institute is afraid of what happened there or anything that Vince Rabago has to say.
You think the court's got it right on this, Mark?
Well, they have to get it right because if they rule with the Republicans who sued, what it basically says that if in the legislative process, if you come out on the short end, you can go to the other branch of government, you can go to the judicial branch and win there what you couldn't win in the legislative system. And with the separation of powers, I don't think the courts want to have anything to do with that. And so yeah, I think they got it right. The tragedy is that I think it was a tax. And I think that the governor, the Democrats, and the heretic Republicans got away with violating Proposition 108.
They did.
And there's the only one that would have standing is the hospitals that are being taxed, and they're all for it, so they're not going to bring suit.
All right, we've gone through the show very quickly, and I definitely wanted to touch upon the troubles that Attorney General Tom Horne had this week in court. There were charges that he illegally colluded with an independent campaign committee that was run by one of his close political allies. He took the stand this week in his own defense, Mark, and said nothing happened.
Right, and he almost had his own the definition of is moment in terms of trying to recast the questions that were being asked of him so that he could give a prepared answer. It wasn't a very good performance. You know, the FBI collected information about what he did. He was on the phone with Kathleen Wynne, who was running this supposed independent expenditure committee, when she was also on the phone with somebody else who was giving money to put this independent expenditure committee together and buy this ad. And he says they happened to be talking on the phone about something completely different, and she was just doing this other work by email and was multitasking. And nobody believes that. Maricopa County Republican County Attorney Bill Montgomery didn't believe it. The Yavapai County Attorney didn't believe it. The FBI didn't believe it. The Secretary of State Ken Bennett doesn't believe it. And I'm pretty sure that probably the judge won't.